Britain is showing us exactly what can happen when weak and dishonest politicians mishandle exactly what we were just talking about. I mean, first you allow mass immigration, including of people from areas and cultures which make it harder for some to integrate, plus Islamism. And then you trash your own culture, your history, your own institution. You pander to what you should confront, and you don't tell the truth either about all this. Now, in Britain, there's been a week of riots by nationalists and anti-immigration extremists and thugs after 3 girls were murdered by allegedly the son of immigrants from Rwanda. But last night there were much less of that, as thousands of counter-protesters held their own rallies demanding peace, many demanding even more immigration, which doesn't seem wise. But newspapers celebrated night anti-hate marches face down the thugs. Thousands take to the streets to confront the far right. And good on them. And London's Metropolitan Police also celebrated an anti-racism protest, although did later admit, OK, there was one group of people not identified who were causing trouble, getting arrested, but that wasn't a protest, that was just pure antisocial behaviour. Well, yes, the cover-up continues because some people are now posting social media. These non-identified non-protesters they filmed were actually these people, crying Allahu Akbar and carrying weapons. Yes, let's pretend we didn't see them, didn't hear them, didn't notice they were Muslim, didn't notice how they left the streets looking like this. The only villains needed right now for the narrative are racist whites. Joining me from London is Patrick Christys, star presenter at GB News. Patrick, great to see you again. Look, fewer anti-immigration riots overnight, that's a good thing. But is that the end of the trouble? Is it all sorted now?
No, absolutely not. It's not sorted because nothing has been sorted. I mean, they were called counter-protesters last night. The fact is they were protesting against thin air. I mean, there are serious rumblings as to where this idea that there would be 100 far-right military-style protests across Britain even came from. I mean, there are rumours today doing the rounds that actually this was a bit of a hoax just to try to get people out onto the streets as a mobilised kind of anti-racist show of force. But they're not dealing with the core issue at play here. So an individual who was a hero, who tackled that alleged Southport stabber that you just mentioned there, and he was stabbed in the leg himself. He went on the BBC yesterday and he said he's dismayed at the way our Prime Minister is handling this because actually what he needs to do is cut immigration and not call everybody far right. Now, the latest polls show that 51% of people in Britain now think immigration is the top issue facing this country, and third is crime, OK? What are the Labour Party currently doing? They're ignoring immigration. They've decided now that they're also going to allow criminals and potentially terrorists to get on the social housing waiting list. They've scrapped the idea to have British homes for British workers, and they're simultaneously doing something called Operation Scatter, which is going to scatter asylum seekers all around the country. Those things are what are really underlying a lot of people, millions of people's dissatisfaction. If you don't deal with that, then you continue to get unrest. Obviously, not for a second justifying any of the proper, far-right action that we would see.
It's interesting, we just saw that footage of a group of men going down the street, some armed, yelling Allahu Akbar. Meanwhile, of course, the British Conservative Party, which got a hiding in the last election, is looking around for a new leader. One poor man has put his hand up, is Robert Jenrick, and he's actually said, Allahu Akbar, crying that out in the street like that should be a crime. I mean, should it? What's going on? That sounds a bit out there.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's all about context, right? So if you're just saying it quietly in a mosque or whatever, then obviously, no, that shouldn't be a crime. But if you are shouting it as he's running through the street with knives, as we have seen on numerous different occasions in this country, or you're shouting it as a show of force and intimidation, like, unfortunately, again, we've seen in recent weeks, with gangs of Asian men with balaclavas holding weapons, running through towns in Britain, shouting and screaming it, then there is an intimidation there, isn't there? And there is a sense that it's a bit of a show of force. But I mean, it does also tie in, though, seriously, with this massive idea of two-tier policing that we've got going on at the moment, Andrew. And we're seeing now police officers addressing Muslim groups, saying "Salam alaikum" and thanking the elders in that community for allowing a police officer to have the opportunity to address British Muslim members. I'm sorry, but this is absolutely insane. And we have also
let me just show viewers that. Let me show viewers exactly what you just mentioned, because I found it quite extraordinary to see. I mean, last night we ran footage of a top police officer saying he didn't send police to a violent Muslim protest because Muslim leaders had assured police it would be fine. And as you say, other police are being filmed, like pandering, like there's some sort of diplomats negotiating with representatives of another country. Have a look.
Salam alaikum. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the leaders and elders that have afforded me this opportunity to speak to you personally.
Hello, salam alaikum. My name is Phil Hutchinson and I am the Superintendent for Greater Manchester Police based in Oldham.
Patrick, I find this extraordinary as you find it. But meanwhile, of course, as you say, the problems aren't going away, and I think they're being felt in many countries in Europe. That a lot of people feeling we've imported fresh threats that seem unprecedented, but they're not allowed to complain. This time, superstar Taylor Swift just cancelled 3 sold-out shows in Austria. Nearly 200,000 fans turned away, and that's because 2 Islamic State sympathisers were arrested for plotting an Islamist terror attack on one of those concerts, allegedly. Now, isn't this the kind of thing exactly that's stoking fear and resentment, and not just in Britain?
Yeah, 100%. Now, Taylor Swift is apparently due to play a couple of concerts back here in Britain in a few weeks' time, I believe. So it'll be interesting to see the police presence there. And yet again, we will have to ask ourselves, won't we? What is it that the police are protecting us from? Why do we have bollards everywhere on the roads to stop a marauding car attack? Why is it now that we have massively increased airport security everywhere? What is the threat? Because people don't want to name it. But unfortunately, that threat is radical Islam, okay? It's not the Mormons, is it? We don't ever see that here in Britain. And people have to wake up to this. People are waking up to it. But people, Andrew, also don't like the idea that they're being lied to about this and told that they can't mention it, they're not allowed to be scared about it, and they're not allowed to confront it. And we have situations like we had in a place called Hartlepool in this country, where a Muslim asylum seeker who travelled through 13 different European countries to get here stabbed an elderly man who was walking his dog to death outside a migrant hotel. And we only found out about that when that case went to court, because they didn't want people to know in case it caused civil unrest. That's not dealing with the main cause of civil unrest.
Well, 2 things there. It's not doing that, Patrick. And the other thing it's doing is creating a suspicion that police are not telling the truth. They can't be trusted. Patrick Christys, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.